Welcome to the 10th edition of Pecha, Kucha, Bermuda. Yeah. Aideen, Najib, and I, Nikki, welcome you all. So, without further ado, I think I've been talking enough. We will start with Melanie Fiander. Melanie, come on up and my first hurricane story. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you all for coming. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a photographer and a professor at the Art Institutes, and this evening I am a storyteller. It seems as though everybody has their own hurricane story. My husband's infamous story during Fabian of running down North Shore with his helmet on and his father saving their boat in Troubadour, or everybody with Emily that didn't know it was coming and everything. So this is my story, my first hurricane story about Faye, or both of them. The morning didn't start off that bad, and honestly, we had felt like we prepared for Faye. I moved all the potted plants in and out, but within 20 minutes, everything went to pot, and my husband was having to hold the frames of our windows in so that they didn't blow out. He grabbed his trusty helmet again, went outside, braced the window with boards and cinder blocks, and I found myself holding onto the windows while he's out there scurrying around with all of these boards and everything. As I'm watching, trying to figure out how Jim is going to put the boards against the window, we had pieces of the roof come off, hit the window down below, and he had to go downstairs and board up another window, and it was all crazy for a moment, but finally he got to sit down. And as it started to calm down a little bit, our neighbors came over, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and it felt fantastic, like this parents were coming next door, which was really nice. We'd gone over to our in-laws' house, or my in-laws' house, and while we were there, our friend Chris said, "Look, I heard your roof came off. I'm going to send my brother-in-law over." Within an hour, he came over. He didn't ask his brother-in-law. He just said, "We're coming over, we're going to help," and he's running up and down these ladders trying to fix everything as it goes, you know. So getting the tarp on took quite a few hours. It was a little difficult with the wind, it was still blowing quite a bit, and we had a number of old sails which we used, as you can see in the lower left-hand corner there. And it became evident that we needed to prepare for the next storm that was coming, now named Gonzalo. And I thought, my God, I've just gotten married. I've moved to this island. I've been here for about a year, and it's normal to have a storm hit twice in 1 week. That seems a little intense. So the next few days consisted of us boarding up our house and tying down boats in Bailey's Bay, our other one in Mills Creek, and I went to the store and bought everything I was told to buy, and bought tape for the windows. I didn't know what type of tape to get, so I bought duct tape. Note to self, not the best tape to buy. It leaves a sticky residue on the window. Not going to buy that for the next time. So Jim finally was able to sleep in a little bit before the hurricane came, and we had made the decision to go to his parents' house only hours before. We thought, we're not staying at our house again, forget it, Faye was enough. And it took our friend Paul to say, well, I'm staying at my parents' house. So Jim looks at me and he goes, Paul's staying at his parents' house. And I was like, well, I guess we're going to your parents' house, so let's go. So we get down to West Point, consisted of more boarding up that seemed to go on forever. Our mate Dylan came by, strolled in, backpack full of beers, red hat, tie-dyed shirt, like nothing was going on, and stayed and helped us throughout the majority of the day board up West Point. So, the whole time I wasn't just taking photos, I was helping to some extent. And I had thought back to what this guy Mike had said while we were putting the tarp on Faye, and he goes, man, I hate hurricanes. It just means work and more work. And I was like, oh, okay, if this guy's just complaining about the prep work and the cleanup work, at least he's not complaining about like impending doom or something like that, which is what I was expecting. So the electricity went out just before dark. The gusts were getting a little intense. The bay grapes were hitting the side of our house, tink, 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 tink. And my mother-in-law had made this nice dinner in the dark for all of us. And my father-in-law was very calm the entire time, didn't even really think anything was going on. So we had heard on the radio that the tornadoes were coming and we're moving back and forth, you know, eating our dinner, moving in the dining room, and going to the basement, and I'm dragging our cat this way and that way as I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't let the cat die. And Blake just remained calm, played the guitar and kind of talked us all through it. Jim checked the barometer back and forth as the evening went on. And I'm on the phone with my mother, and she's like, the eye is over Bermuda. I'm not going to tell you what happened during the eye because it was a little intense. But she's like, the wall is caving in. It's closing in. CNN says not to go outside. Where is everybody? I said, oh my God, I'm the only one in the house. Everybody is outside, and I have to get everybody inside. The rest of the storm, I slept in the tub, in the closet, and then the morning came. Gorgeous morning light. As a photographer, you're supposed to be outside photographing this gorgeous morning light. I could not move. I was asleep on the floor of the closet. That was it. So the next step was to get down to Bailey's Bay to check our boat, which was one of the few boats left in Bailey's Bay. Stand firm like a champ. She didn't go anywhere. Jim and his friend Chris had tied that thing down like all hell was going to break loose, which it did. It was really quite something to see Troubadour out there in Bailey's Bay, just by herself, hanging out. So they threw the dinghy overboard and rowed out there as everything was, you know, checking to see what was going on. And as Jim is rowing out there, these kids kind of came by on their bike, and as though nothing was going on. Just like the guy grilling outside, nothing was going on. Life was back to normal now, so it was really nice. And just kind of took it all in. I did notice, I don't know if anybody else noticed, but the water seemed more of an aqua color. I don't know if it was just the reflection from the clouds or what, but it was like this gorgeous color. So we went back up to our house. 5 days prior to this, my husband said, do you have anything else better to do? As I painted the sign. No, no, Gonzalo. I was like, not really. So the roof that we had just put back on came back off, and it struck our sign, put a big hole in my sign, but it was okay. The main part of my story is basically this. I had seen more people helping other people that week than I had seen in a very, very long time. And as the helicopter is flying by, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like in a movie. This is awesome. And we had more friends come up and help us put another tarp on the roof and made the claims for Colonial, and it was okay. And I survived.
Thank you, Melanie. Questions? We have our mic that we don't have a very long mic, and we want people to come and ask a question. Anybody has a question? Come up to the mic, please. Yeah. What's your hometown?
Washington, D.C. Go Red Sox.
I don't know if you mentioned this in your thing. Was this like the first really big storm that you've been through?
When I think of a storm, I think of snow and ice, but I don't think of wind going around and trees crashing down. So yeah, it was my first big thing. That was a good question.